Hey guys, so I'm just about to start my 9th guitar build, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to just film the process and give some insight into what goes into building a guitar. I'm just going to start out by running through the hardware and wood. It's pretty important to get all your hardware together before you start building. Components have pretty critical dimensions that affect exactly how you design your neck and body in particular, especially the bridge, pickups, in this case a locking nut. This time I'm doing a 7-string electric. I'm going with a Floyd Rose. I've picked Seymour Duncan humbucking pickups. I picked a pair that had 4-wire leads on them. That gives me the ability to do coil taps and wire them however I want. It gives a bit more flexibility in the type of tones that you can get out of the guitar. As far as my neck wood goes, I've picked Wenge and maple. I like it aesthetically. Also, if you have a board that has some twist or warp to it, even the slightest, what you can do is cut the wood lengthwise and book match it out this way, so the face of your neck is actually the edge of the board, and then any twist that's built into the board will be mirrored to the other side and should cancel it out at least to some extent. For the fretboard, I'm going with Bowcoat. It's a wood I've never worked with before, but it's pretty, it's hard. I'm told it machines well, so I'm gonna give it a go. So also for the neck, I've got my truss rod, of course. I go dual action, which means you can tighten it or loosen it beyond loose, and then that allows you to adjust the neck bow forward or backwards, which, you know, if you have a really stiff neck, is helpful, because if you need to give it some bow because it's so stiff, it gives you that flexibility. I'm also using carbon fiber through the neck just to stiffen things up. Pretty standard medium fret wire. For the top of the guitar and the back, I'm using hook matched curly maple. It'll really pop once you hit it with finish, and this is some pretty interesting wood. The core of it, I'm going to be using mahogany. This I'll have to machine down quite a bit to get into the right thickness and dimensions that I need to work with. And then just between the core and the top and back, I'm going to be laying down black veneer just as an accent strip, just to better define the layers of the body. So I like to do all my design on the computer ahead of time. I use Inkscape. It's a similar program to Adobe Illustrator. You're working with primarily the Bezier tool. So in that sense, all the shapes are defined by points, vertices, lines, and little handles for the characteristics of those points. I do as much design ahead of time as I can, so I know what I'm working with. Often I'll download images of guitars I like and overlay them so I can get a good idea of proportions and how things will lay out. That way you don't end up with a guitar with a disproportionately small body or something like that. I also tend to take cues from previous guitars that I've done. You can probably see the similarities, especially the headstock is pretty much the same as my last bass that I built. Designing like this also is really helpful for the headstock because you can lay out your strings so you don't end up with any strings that are going at weird angles or strings that are too close or strings that hit other tuners or something like that. I'm mostly just concerned about the body and headstock shape at this point, so I know what to cut out. So I'll take those and print those off at full scale, and then I'll have paper templates which I can trace out onto thin plywood or directly onto the wood I'm cutting itself. So from here you're pretty much ready to cut wood, and you can use this design as a reference as you go. So I'm ready to cut my body blank. This board isn't wide enough for the entire body, so I'm going to have to do it in 2 sections. Based on my diagram, the total body length is 18 inches. So I'll cut this to length at 36 inches. And use a square. Throw on my glasses and my ear protection. So now this board is ready to be planed to thickness. So based on a couple other guitars I like, and based on the constraint of the tremolo, which goes through the body, I'm targeting a body thickness of 36 millimeters, which is what, almost 1.5 inches. This wood isn't thick enough to do 2 body blanks, so I'm gonna have to plane it down to that. My top and back combined are 12 millimeters. So I'll be going down to 24 millimeters. So I'll set my calipers to that, and then as I'm getting close I can just check it with these since they're locked down. So let's get started. I'll just pass it through and get my first cut depth figured out. And I'll plug it in. That sometimes helps. And just have it go. So I'm going to look at how the wood reacts to the planer as I go, because I can see it's chipping up a bit this way. I'm going to try and spin it around on my next pass. And I like to always alternate back and forth the faces that I'm cutting down, so I end up taking off even amounts on the back and front. As you can see, our depth of cut is right where we want it, at 24 millimeters. So now this is ready to be cut in half and then jointed, maybe joint first, cut in half, and then glued up as a solid body blank. I guess we really only have to do one edge. That'll be the edge that gets butted up together when we glue up the sides. We'll just make sure that's good and square. Set our cutting depth pretty light because mahogany tends to chip out, so I'm setting it to 1/32. Throw on our hearing protection. Just do one practice pass. Okay, ready to go. So I can tell by looking at it and feeling it that it's cut through any rough that was left on the board. So now this edge is done on the jointer, that's for sure. So we just got to cut this body blank in half before we glue it up. 18 inches. Now this is too wide for my bandsaw, so I'm just going to use a jigsaw. It'll cut fine. There we go, ready to go. So I'm ready to glue up the body blank now. So first of all, I just want to take a sanding block to the faces that I'm going to be gluing, because the jointing tends to compress the grains, and sanding just kind of opens things up and gives you a better surface to adhere to. So I'm just sanding enough so I don't see any more ridges from the jointer. just get rid of excess dust. So I'll throw down a glue line, not too much. Spread it out. Get full coverage of that face. I've already got my clamps ready to go, and I've done a dry clamp. So now just gotta line things up and start throwing down the clamps. Just gonna make sure that they line up. Should do it. So I'll set that aside when we start on the neck. Okay, so I figured out my neck thickness is going to be around 20 millimeters, 21 at the 12th fret. And I'm going to be using these boards vertically for the neck. So I'm going to cut them off at 26 millimeters, which gives me a bit of room when I glue it up to plane it flat again and still have some material to work with. So I've marked the first one. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. So I've got the first one cut. I'm going to use that as a guide to mark the wangi. And I'll use the jointed edge as my straight edge, obviously. Just give that a quick check. So this wangi is ready to cut. Two more cuts. We got two more cuts to go here. So I've taken the board, opened it up, there you got left and right. And I know this isn't going to be quite wide enough at the body, but it'll be plenty wide enough further up. So I'm just going to use one extra strip cut in half for the upper frets, just to give it some extra width there. So just cut this in half. No. Okay. That happened. Yeah. This is what I have to laminate. A bit longer than the maple there, so I'm just going to cut off the excess. So now I'm going to do the same thing, just sand the surfaces of these boards so that the glue adheres better, and then it'll just be clamping it up. So one last thing before I glue is I'm just going to wipe the surfaces down with mineral spirits. This will clean up any sawdust, as well as it'll kind of get rid of the oils in the wangi, which is good because oils will kind of inhibit our glue joint. Okay, so I've got all my clamps set to their depths, and we're ready to glue this up. So I'll do another thin glue line on half the faces. Yeah, I'll just tip them down like that. Glue anything I see. And we can start clamping. Okay, let's get everything flat and just have at it. That's all the clamps I can find. Just throw these little ones on here too. And this guy, if it'll reach. That should do it. Just we'll leave it for at least 24 hours before we take any clamps off.